Test 1, 2, 3. Sounds like I'm on. Okay. Good morning, friends. Good morning, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to Temple Bethel. Just a few words before we begin today. If you have a mobile phone with you, we'd like to invite you to turn it to silent. You don't need to turn it off, but just if you would lower the volume or eliminate the volume on the ringer, that would be a great help to us. Those notifications will be waiting for you. There's no fear of missing out, so don't worry about that. But that would help maintain a wonderful atmosphere of remembrance and sorrow and joy at the same time as we know here in our sanctuary. Also, later on in this morning's gathering between 10 and 11-ish, we will be inviting a few folks to come up and offer some remembrances. And don't feel bashful about coming up, but don't feel compelled about coming up either. One of the things that we try to do during these moments of memory is to summon up memories so that anyone here who has and had an encounter, a beautiful encounter with Sue, or who has a memory that they'd like to share, don't feel compelled to share it here, but be sure to summon it up. And I'm going to ask you to do that a number of other times so that you can share it with the family later on. Because the more that they hear stories about Sue, stories that they may not know, because they know how they encounter Sue, and they know Sue, and were loved by Sue, and how they loved Sue, but they don't know her influence in totality among all of you others who are here this morning. If you're joining us online, you can certainly offer something in the comments section as well. I think that is open. So offer memories there also, so that Sue's family can see the recording and really benefit from all of those memories that we might have of Sue. We have a few prayers of memory this morning, and some prepared eulogies and prepared words from Sue's family and from myself. So we're glad to have everybody here today. We begin with words from Psalm 121, which is a song of ascending, or a song of one who rises, one perhaps who helps other people as they need ascending. It's not in the program today. It's simply something that I'm going to offer myself. Esa enai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, ose shamayim va'aretz. Al yiten lamot raglecha, al yanum shomerecha, hine lo yanum velo yishan, shomer Yisrael. In English, a song of ascending. I raise my eyes toward the hills, toward the wellspring of my help. My help comes from the eternal maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot be moved. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal is your guardian and your protector. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Eternal will keep you from all evil, watching over your life. The Eternal will watch over your coming out and your going from this time forth and forever. Again, that was Psalm 121 from the Hebrew Bible. My friends, I think that Sue's spirit of joy, Sue's spirit of chutzpah, Sue's spirit of moxie, that was not meant to be funny, but okay. I think Sue would appreciate the descriptor. All that was part of Sue's life is with us here today in more ways than possibly we could imagine. To her family and to her friends near and far, either in real time or later when we review this recording, we offer our presence and our love to you. We offer condolences because each of us is sad at Sue's passing, and we stand together with you in consolation. We're all saddened by Sue's passing, unexpected as it was, but we are comforted by being with one another here in this sanctuary and remembering how she influenced and still influences our lives. We are buoyed by her joy, by her moxie, by her can-do spirit. And that is not a simply lip service to someone who really had that as part of her dynamic. She shared so many gifts with those who knew her. And for Sue's love that united us all in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's pathway and now continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and her mind that brought us all joy, and that now are precious remembrances. For all these and more, we give thanks to God and give thanks to the spirit of humanity that lives within each of us. At this time of sadness, let's listen for a few moments to the voices of sacred scripture that bring us the ever new message of the potential of life's goodness and human unity. It tells us of our kinship with one another in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. These words are from Psalm 15. Perhaps we'll see part of Sue there. Eternal God, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? She whose walk is blameless, she who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from her heart, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor and casts no ill repute on others. She who despises the wicked and honors those who fear God. She who keeps an oath and even when it hurts, does not retract. She who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept bribes against the innocent. She who lives in this way shall never be shaken. Again, that was Psalm 15. These words are in the program. These are the words of the 23rd Psalm. The translation may be a little updated. It's a little modern. So don't expect the normal language we might hear in other worship settings. The psalmist writes, "With God, the eternal, as my shepherd, there is nothing I lack. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me to calm waters. God makes me feel young again. God shows me pathways of righteous living for the sake of the divine name. And even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear evil, for you are by my side. Your discipline and your direction, they provide me with comfort. You prepare a victory celebration for me in the presence of my worst enemies. It is as though you were anointing me with soothing oils. The cup of your beneficence overflows. Surely such goodness and loving kindness will follow me all my life as I dwell under your influence and guidance for all of my days." And finally, this passage from the book of Ecclesiastes. The words are somewhat familiar to you, I would think, but I think that they certainly speak to us of the reality of living in the kind of world we live in. The author of Ecclesiastes writes, "For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time for speaking." And this morning you will hear some of us speak. I'm not going to speak for very long. I think more you want to hear from Sue's family, and you want to hear from Sue's friends as well. But I did want to offer something for the congregation this morning. We were trying to calculate this number last week, and I think that we formed our cancer support group in 2012, 2011, 2013. I know I'm going to be corrected. We have members of that cancer support group here this morning. And Sue was one of our flagship, if you will, members of that group. And so for the last 10 or 12 years, she provided us with camaraderie. She provided us with spirit. She provided us with baked goods that you know are really phenomenal. And she did so out of the goodness of her heart. So she did things with her heart and her hands and her mind that were just unbelievably phenomenal. I want to share with you something. This is a visual aid. I want to share with you something which is a gift that our religious school received a few weeks ago. So this is one day going to be hung in the hallways of our religious school building, and it was offered to the religious school by the religious school students who actually physically created it. It was made by an artist who is with us today, but I wanted to share this with you, and I'll tell you about the significance of it. So you all can see it. In Hebrew, it reads, "Aseh lecha rav ukneh lecha chaver." Translated, one of the ways you translate this is, make for yourself a teacher and you have acquired a friend. Make for yourself a teacher, and you have acquired a friend. This is a citation from a book called the Mishnah which is actually one of the commentaries of the Torah, one of the commentaries of the first part of the Hebrew Bible. And it was offered to the religious school in my honor because I'm going to be leaving this congregation in about a month's time or so. And it was a lovely ceremony. But I think that the emotion and the sentiment about her being a teacher is so important to our community and to the kind of person that she was, and perhaps to the kind of person that you all became because of how she influences you. What is a teacher? A teacher is one who facilitates learning. A teacher is one who demonstrates by example knowledge and wisdom. Someone who will point out the facts. And someone who may hold a mirror up to us to point out inconsistencies, perhaps, and to focus on what needs fixing. So those are some of the things that a teacher does, I think. But I also want to go back to that word teacher, which is on this poster, the common word for friend in Hebrew. The common word for friend that we would use today is chaver. But the word chaver doesn't only mean friend, because it comes from the Hebrew root that means connection. And so a teacher is someone who is connected to us in a truly unique way. The word chibur, some Hebrew students may know, means a composition. And so if you're asked to do a chibur, it means you have to do a lot of writing. But again, a teacher and a friend is someone who is composed in their lives and helps us compose our life. And I think Sue did all of that and more because she was indeed a friend. She knew what was precisely needed to improve the situation. She was someone who clearly communicated thoughts, feelings, and emotions all at once. A good teacher will tell you how things are. And a good teacher will then let us know that it's our job to address it. So those are my thoughts about teachers and my thoughts about Sue at this time. But now I really would want to invite to the lectern here, invite to the Amud, members of Sue's family who have a lot more to share about Sue than I might. Of course.
So in honor of my mom's love of technology.
I want to make sure that this works.
Okay, that was supposed to be funny for those.
There we go. Okay. Yep.
My remarks are on an iPad. Let me get to the beginning. So first of all, I want to thank you all for being here today, and to note the irony of starting anything this early in the morning. If you know my mother, this was not her prime time. So I've been trying to think about what to say about my mom for the last couple of weeks, and I could tell you about her, things you already know. She was tenacious, she was independent, she loved to bake, and I think that might be a theme today, because I know many of you were the recipients of her cookies and pumpkin breads. She was proudly and unapologetically a New Yorker. And I know that one really surprises you, but really, Mom was a teacher at heart. She loved being in the classroom. She loved seeing the light bulb going on for students. She especially loved teaching kids how to read, believing that that was the key to success. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to us over the last few weeks to tell us about our mom as their teacher. One of her students, who was in her first grade class 63 years ago, reached out and said, "I remember so vividly your mom standing in front of the blackboard. She had such patience with us and understood we were mostly just poor kids from the South Bronx." That student went on to rabbinic school and to join the Navy, and he and Mom reconnected when he was stationed in Iraq during the war. Upon his retirement from the Navy, the student recognized Mom at his retirement ceremony as someone who believed in and motivated him to succeed in school. Many of you know Mom also volunteered for Jewish Social Services, teaching English to new immigrants for many, many years. She got as much out of those weekly sessions as she gave. And those students became family, celebrating Thanksgiving together, attending my wedding, and being a part of Mom's network and community. I also think she really couldn't help herself from teaching people really everywhere. For 9 years, she participated in an education program for pharmacy students to help them understand some of the issues and challenges that a senior might experience when navigating the healthcare system, particularly thinking about medications and managing side effects. Since the pandemic, she worried about all those kids who didn't learn how to read because they weren't in school, and so she was looking forward to re-engaging with Jewish social services this summer. And of course, she loved the teaching aspect of real estate. She worked hard to learn an entirely new career, and she loved almost everything, except the technology, about it. And she loved working with first-time homebuyers to find the perfect house, helping people see that they could achieve the dream of home ownership. When I bought my first house in 1995, she of course helped me by looking over all the documents and asking questions. In true Sue fashion, she was sure there was something wrong with my closing estimate and demanded to talk to my mortgage broker. I called him, explained the situation, and let him know my mom would be calling him. And he said, "Don't worry, he had a Jewish mom too." When I sold that house, she also helped me do it on my own. Sorry to all the realtors, but I did it on my own. I called her in a panic, and she talked me through multiple offers while I had a buyer in the front yard and a buyer in the backyard. She was also really patriotic. She loved a good rendition of the national anthem, although she didn't sing. When the Olympic athletes returned to Wisconsin after the 1980 Winter Games, she insisted that my brother and I go to an event outside at Camp Randall in the winter to welcome them home. This was the year of Eric and Beth Hayden and the Miracle on Ice. I've also learned several things from my mom. She really believed in civic responsibility and the importance of voting. She knew this country wasn't perfect. She still harbored resentment toward FDR for turning away the St. Louis in 1939, and appalled by the growing rise in anti-Semitism today. She also knew and taught me that you have to be at the table if you want things to change. Or as she would say, you can't bitch if you didn't show up, and you better show up. The most important thing my mom taught me was about showing up for others. She showed up, usually with cookies and pumpkin bread or chicken soup, but she showed up. And showing up, she built a network of friends that were like family. I know I'm going to leave some people out, so forgive me, but I would be remiss not to mention a few. So Karen and Bill, who welcomed us all into their home when we returned to Madison in 1979. Joanne, and then Shelley, Barb, and Martha as the Golden Girls, who cheered her on, supported her and us during the hard times, and laughed a lot over the last 40 plus years. Dana, who was her most recent partner in crime and adventure, and her connections through First Weber, Temple Bethel, Parkwood Village, Rotary, Scrabble, Sail, you get the picture. I learned the importance of creating community, showing up for others the way you have all showed up for us during the last few weeks. For that, I want to say thank you. You all know that my mom was fiercely independent. She prided herself on creating a successful business, on raising us, on being engaged in our children's lives, on living on her own and doing things her way. Thanks in part to many of you, and in large part to my brother, Mom got her wish and lived on her own in her own home into the last few days. Those of you who drove her to Scrabble, doctor's appointments, social events, and more helped her maintain her sense of independence, and that was crucial to her. You have proved her right. A strong community, all of you here today, and joining online are the measure of a person's life. Again, thank you.
Just to prove that I'm the better child, I'll be going without technology for this. I see you gesticulating. I'll get to it. So, first of all, thank you all for being here. My mother would love today, aside from two things. One, as Amy mentioned, way too early in the morning for her. The other is, and apology in advance to the very nice folks that have catered the event, she would have rather her own cookies be used to help kind of see this out. But what she really would have loved is We got a couple hours just to talk about her. But more importantly, I think there are two things that really stick out for me. One is that she loved being a part of, and in some cases, building communities. And there are all sorts of communities here, a bunch of concentric circles. There are neighbors, there are family members, there's extended family members, there are professional communities, multiple ones. There are volunteer communities. There's the religious community and the community of faith she was a part of. All of those are interesting to me because of how they all overlap. There are people that she knew professionally that she also considered dear friends. There are people that are family members that she also wanted to do business with. There are people here that she initially created a volunteer relationship with that she considered family. So for somebody like my mother, having all of these concentric circles here again, becoming a Venn diagram again, she'd really appreciate that. And the other, and this really will go to maybe what we'll do a little later when we retire to the other room, is she's a storyteller. And everybody here has a Sue Goldstein story. And I guarantee you, some of them are bananas. That woman was nuts. And I say that lovingly. So what I'm looking forward to a little later this morning is an opportunity to hear some of those stories, share some of those stories. Because she it was many things, but memorable was chief among them. And everybody in this room has at least one experience that is distinctly Sue Goldstein. And we're so glad that you were able to be here helping us celebrate her life, remember her, and think and talk about all of the ways in which she really kind of brought people together. So thanks again.
Hi, I'm Dan Weiss. I'm Sue's son-in-law. I also want to thank you for being here to join us in remembering Sue and to support our family as we grieve her passing. Sue was a generous person. Most of you here experienced her generosity in one way or another. I want to take a few moments to describe the impact that her generosity had on my life and the lives of my family. One of my earliest memories of Sue's generosity was her baking for the first buddy walk for the Madison Area Down Syndrome Society. It was a new event planned in large part by her family, and Sue took responsibility for taking care of the treats for every participant. She baked hundreds of cookies, sugar cookies, snickerdoodles, Chinese noodle cookies, lemonade cookies, and of course, chocolate chip cookies. Even though Culver's was there too, the cookies were devoured long before the custard. Sue's cookies became a tradition that continued for many more buddy walks. Sue's cookies were more than a hobby, they were her way of showing love for others. She sent us a tin of cookies for every holiday and special occasion. Heart-shaped cookies for Valentine's Day, stained glass windows for Amy on Mother's Day, Rugelach for me on Father's Day, for my kids' birthdays. She sent them an aluminum foiled piece of cardboard with happy birthday, their name, and age spelled out in sugar cookies. The cookies were always carefully packaged and hermetically sealed to minimize any damage in transit. They usually made it to our house intact. Sue's generosity wasn't limited to cookies. From a very young age until 13, my kids received a book from Sue in the mail every month. She sent them just about every Dr. Seuss book ever written. After that, she sent my son Jacob the classics, Robin Hood, the Iliad and the Odyssey, Moby Dick, and many others. I'm not sure he appreciated them at the time because they weren't what his tween friends were reading, but she knew that he would eventually. She also sent Jacob books about legendary baseball players, most of them Yankees, of course. He recently shared with me that these books gave him an appreciation for baseball's rich past, even though at the time the Yankees had been consistently beating his favorite team, the Minnesota Twins. She sent my daughter Ellie books from the Who Was series. Each one tells the story of a historical figure who was a trailblazer, a legend, an innovator. She sent her stories only about strong, famous women, like Amelia Earhart, Clara Burton, or Marie Curie. Sue's book choices were deliberate. She wanted the kids to learn about the past while fostering a passion for reading. Both kids recently told me that Grandma Sue's books had a huge impact on their love of reading, and that getting a package every month just for them was one of their favorite memories of her. Mission accomplished, Sue. Sue didn't send me books. Instead, she sent me sweaters. Every year on my birthday, she would send me a sweater. She loved shopping for men's sweaters, and I will say that she had a pretty good eye for them, and I'm wearing one of them today as a tribute to her. The great rabbi, Mother Teresa, said, "It's not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving." Sue didn't give extravagant gifts, but she clearly put a lot of love into her giving. I hope that her memory inspires us to find ways in our everyday lives to be as generous to the ones we love.
Thank you. We now want to invite, there are some people who have prepared some thoughts, but we'd like to invite you to come to this microphone here, down on the floor. For some people being on the bima, which is the Hebrew word for pulpit. Some people find that a little bit intimidating. But come and use this microphone. It'll be on the stand. Talk very closely into it, because that's how you can be heard. Your mouth has to be about 2 inches from it. That's the best, and directly in front of you. And still the cameras will pick up your beautiful faces. So now for just those who would like to share something with this community, please feel free to do so. We have like a halfway microphone indicator. Should we replace the batteries real fast? No, we're okay? Okay, we're good. Okay, friends. Someone does. Oh, we have someone.
Can you hear me? My name is Stacy Ozan, and I met Sue in the 4th grade. Or were you in the 4th?
4th grade.
So Andy and I were in class together. They were doing this new experiment, like 3rd, 4th type of a class. And when I was young, I had a horrible speech impediment. Couldn't say my R's, had problems with different letter combinations. People couldn't understand me. And I was kind of just like, I worked with a speech pathologist, and I was kind of getting inside myself because of it. And in walks Sue as our class mom, volunteer mom. And she spoke like me. She sounded like me. She understood me. And it was so amazing to have somebody get me kind of like through that moment. And I remember going up to her and going, "Hey, you talk like me." And she goes, "Oh no, you talk like me." And she wouldn't let me have that moment, which was perfectly fine. But it was knowing her at that moment, that was a really important time to meet Sue. And I'm very grateful to have at that moment, and then later rekindling our friendship at First Weber. So I'm very much in debt to Sue for that.
Thanks for your patience while I limp up here. Thank you. So my name is Linda Finn, and I spent almost every Wednesday night from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. with Sue. I started to play Scrabble in 1996, so that's 28 years, and she was playing long before me, so I'm one of her recent Scrabble friends. I look out around you, and you all look like normal people, and then I realized, well, I'm the only Scrabbler here. And that was the thing. Sue really stood out at Scrabble Club because she was the only normal one of us. When you went into Scrabble Club, it was absolutely usually dead silent, and it looked like people were taking the SATs. It was the most serious space, but not for Sue. Sue would bring her Melio's, what was it before, Big Mike's? She would bring her sandwich from Melio's, and she would eat. Nobody else would eat. Everybody would either wait till after or before, but she would eat her sandwich, and she would read the newspaper while she played Scrabble, and the rest of us were, just like dead serious focus. But she reminded us that we can do all the things we enjoy together. We can have dinner, we can read the paper, we can be with friends, we can play Scrabble. And so that was like a good reminder for all of us Scrabble nerds that there's life beyond Scrabble. The best night at Scrabble Club, you're going to hear a familiar theme now. The best night at Scrabble Club was when Sue brought in cookies. And that was the only thing that made us all realize that, hey, we can do things we enjoy together too, because her cookies were fabulous and everyone looked forward to them. And we got, when you mentioned the foil box, we got the same foil box treatment, which we all really appreciated. And she was a wonderful friend to me. She accepted me and my family right away. My wife Emily is here. She was very accepting and loving to us. She used to watch the fireworks at our place when they were downtown because we had a nice view of downtown, but she never liked I would have an ice cream bar, and she was like, I don't eat dairy. So I was the bad friend. I always made sure, you guys know, right? Yeah. Right? But I would always have something that wasn't dairy. And I will miss her dearly. I've been to Scrabble Club once since she's gone, and it's just not the same without her. So I'll think of her every Wednesday for years going forward. And I appreciate all the help her family did to get her to club and to make sure she could still enjoy it up until the very end. And I just have one more thing to say, and that's she won her last game at Scrabble Club, and so she definitely went out on top.
I don't need a microphone. I'm a high school referee.
Sir, no one can hear you online. Please come up and use the microphone.
I've got two stories. We work with Sue at Weber and First Weber. And one of the stories that I remember, this is at the Whitney Way office, and then we're at the Pittsburgh office. So there's two kind of offices, different scenarios. One was a dear friend of ours passed, Darlene Stotts. And I remember that. We have a company retreat. Sue got dropped off, and Darlene hit a patch of ice and hit a pole. And it was just sad. Sue was the last person to see her, and Sue really, really felt for Darlene. Everybody in the office did. And the second thing is, did you pay your United Way charities? Did you? And she would, did you pay your United Way? She was in charge of the office at Fitchburg. Everybody paid United Way. Why? Because we got to be 100%. That was Sue. So if you didn't come into the office to avoid not paying United Way your $5, $10, $20, she'd call you at home. She was going to get it. Two things I remember. Well, it's one that I talk about.
We had it planned, and this wasn't the plan.
Talk into the mic.
That's why I wanted the pulpit. Okay.
Got a mic right there. She wants to go. Yeah, go.
We can raise this if you want. Then we'll break it. See, Sue and I I met Sue in 1982 when I changed companies and went over to Weber.
Use your outdoor voice.
You can't hear me. My mouth is right here. So anyway, Sue was probably one of the first people I met. And when she said something, I knew we were going to be immediate friends because I recognized the accent. And we did. We became immediate friends. And you met Sue long before I did, so why don't you talk about it?
I'm Martha Alberti, and I am one of the Golden Girls. I met Sue first in 1967. She was my oldest son's first grade teacher. So I've known Sue a very, very long time. And then we met again. We kind of went our separate ways when my son got out of her class and so on and so forth. We met again in '79 when we both started with Weber Realty. She had quit teaching, I had quit teaching, and we became realtors. So I've known her for a very long time. And in, I don't remember what year, Shelley Miller started with Weber. She had been a realtor for many years, and she started with Weber. And we decided soon after that we were the Golden Girls. And for anybody here very young, you won't remember the Golden Girls, but the Golden Girls were a absolutely hysterically funny TV program from '82 to '92, and it was about 4 older women who moved into a house to live together after they were divorced or widowed.
That was the plan.
That was our plan. That was our plan.
Sorry, Les.
Yeah. I was the one that was divorced, and the other 2 were the ones that were widowed, and you were married. No. But there were 4 of us. So anyway, that was our plan. And Rose became our Rose. Sue became our Rose, who was sweet, quote, and naive in the program. And of course, Shelley was our Sophia, who was the mother of one of the other 3. And I'll let you do this one. No, this one.
One of the things that really hit us, there was an episode where the 4 women were talking about what's going to happen when they die because they want to stay together. So they decided cryogenics would work, but they probably just could only do their heads. So they slit down and they put their heads on the table.
Well, they were dead at that point.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they were.
Oh, I'll show you. I said, okay. Well, wait, we'll talk later. So anyway.
This is typical of us.
Anyhow, so we got to talking about it. I think it was up at your place, your house. And we decided that is a great idea. We don't know where the bodies are going to come from yet, but everybody can decide that because we'll have the heads. So here we are, the 4 of us, put our heads up on the table. and we're prefiguring whose body is going to come. I mean, it was really very strange, but it was, but you know what? That was us. I mean, what can I say? So, who goes next here? I don't know.
We still call ourselves the Golden Girls.
Yeah, and we're
the only 2 remaining of the original. There's been a lot of friends that have kind of gone in and out over the years, but we are 2 of the remaining 2. When you called me and told me your mom was gone, I called her and I said, "There's only 2 left."
And I knew what she meant right away.
Yeah, because Shelley died a couple of years ago. We all tease Sue about
Everything.
almost anything.
So Sue had a thing about diseases, anybody's cuts. She couldn't stand blood. one of the things I know Amy's thinking of right now is, and she told me a story. Amy was not well once, and so I asked Sue when she came into work, how is Amy? And she says, I don't know, she was throwing up. I said, well, where were you? She says, I went into the closet. She couldn't stand anything that showed illness. And another story, really, that embarrassed the heck out of me. She told me that before I went into real estate, I was a nurse. And I kind of stayed a nurse too, so if anyone wasn't feeling well, they came to me. But Sue comes in half like this and saying she's dizzy. So I talked to her a little bit, and I said, I really think it's your inner ear, your middle ear. You're going to be fine. We'll go get it checked. So we're walking out towards the door, and we're in the lobby, and she decides she lays down on the floor. Now, I'm standing there, and she's laying there like it's all over, you know? And I said, Sue, get out. I mean, people were coming in. Get out. So finally, I did get her up. This isn't the worst of it. I take her down. We went to the emergency room. They take her right in because if you know Sue, you want her to go right in. And they said, do you want to go in with her? No, that's okay. I stayed out in the waiting room. All of a sudden, I hear this voice coming from, I figured her room. He says, get me somebody that speaks English. And at that time, I just slanked down. She's great, and she's got the biggest heart in the world, but put her near anything, anybody's illness or her own, and I don't know who she is. Take it from there.
One of the things that I remember is that if she didn't feel well or if she had a bad hangover, she would head to her red chair and her blankie and expect to be waited on. I see Amy remembering some of those.
What about when we would go up, first of all, when we went up to see you for lunch? You can tell that story.
Okay, I got another one as well.
Yeah, tell the other one.
Because Amy brought this one up. I'm an early to bed
Oh, God,
person.
I know.
I go to bed at, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock for sure. And your mom used to call me at 11 o'clock and wake me up. Well, what are you doing in bed at this hour, But I get up at 4 or so, 4 before.
I'm just turning over
And,
then.
and so one time I thought, I'm gonna fix her. I said, Sue, the next time you call me after 9 o'clock, I'm going to call you when I wake up in the morning. She never did it. I put the fear of God in her when I told her that. We gathered a lot of times at my house. I live on the lake, Wisconsin. And so the four of us would go up there and we would have a great day. Sue would never drive up there though. I mean, as much as she loved me and I loved her, she would not ever drive to my house. She'd drive to Timbuktu with a client, but she would never come to my house because to come to my house, you have to go past cows. And she couldn't stand to go past cows. And so when she would ride with Barb or Shelley, she would just look down so that she didn't have to see the cows. Don't ask me why. She never explained why. She never wanted to see the cows. And another memory from then was whenever she would come to my house in the summertime, I have a big deck overlooking the lake. And she would always, after we had lunch, she would go to one of the recliners on the deck and take a nap. Always. I mean, it never failed. And in the wintertime, she would take over the couch in the living room and have her nap. And she'd say, well, it's so peaceful here.
But she missed everything.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to recap everything.
And then when she had her nap, she would start in on me and say, when are you going to then we would tell her that we always loved her, and always well. I mean, we teased her about everything. So,
She did a lot. You know, we teased her, but she did so much. She had such a big heart. Every holiday, around Christmas time, Hanukkah, she would throw a big party, a big dinner party.
our ladies' dinner.
Our
she
ladies'
called it.
dinner.
Our ladies' dinner.
And you can talk more about that if you want.
Oh, it was just, I think she started that right after we started with Pepper. That she would have these ladies' dinners, and we couldn't bring anything, so we used to bring.
Gifts.
We
We
brought
brought gifts.
little gifts to put around the table, each of us. We started that kind of early on, and just to celebrate, and we had a great time. Most everyone, a lot of them are gone by now that joined us. I mean, it started out with just the Golden Girls, and then it expanded, and
It always was the Golden Girls and Friends.
Yes, but I mean,
Make
it
that
started with
clear.
just the four of us.
Yes,
Yes.
and it ended right down to two of us.
Well, no, we still got Damon, and we still got a few
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry.
And of course, you know, again, her baking skills, her quilts. I can't begin to think how many quilts she
Yeah.
made. And they were just a labor of love. She always had quilts going.
There was so much good to her. You know, we make fun and we laugh and things like that because, you know, we're friends and we do that. But boy, she just had a good heart. She was always where she was needed. You know, I just can't go on. I miss her. I was really surprised. I thought she'd outlive me, so I just miss her.
Yeah,
So.
she was sweet, she was generous.
Yeah.
We loved her and we'll miss her forever.
We'll join. We'll be the four of us.
Okay.
If we don't go down. Yeah.
Sorry we took so long, guys, but we couldn't pare it down, we tried.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea. I'm Max and Zoe's mom, and I won't talk for long. I just wanted to share that when I first started seeing Andy, he told me about his mom, and I thought, who is this guy? Like, this is not real. I thought kind of he made her up. And then I met her, and he didn't. And she, the first time I met her, I think, gave me a big hug and said that I was the first person Andy had brought home since the girl that she offered a turkey carcass to. Which luckily she did not offer me. And when we told her that we were getting married, she said, I have to go to the bathroom. And then she was gone and came back with tears in her eyes and makeup smeared on her face because she was crying happy tears, I think. And subsequently, she bullied us into registering for fine china and a coffee maker in case of guests. You can't serve the cookies without coffee. She accused me of being born in a barn because I didn't know that you can't set a cardboard box on a table, a finished table. Nonetheless, when I indeed scratched her table, she forgave me and welcomed me into her family, taught me how to make quilts, and taught me what a tray box is, and became the best grandma that I could have asked for my kids. And once you were her family, you were always her family. And I know that she felt that way about everybody here. But even as recently as last year when Zoe, who couldn't be here today, graduated from high school, and I was really nervous because Sue was coming to my house. And I hadn't seen her in a long time and didn't know what she would think. And also had a Great Dane, which, for those of you who know Sue, she was not a big fan. But she did what she always did. She gave me a big hug. She assessed what I'd done to the house. And she said, "Oh, Andrea, that dog is huge." But then she proceeded to pet Olivia and make friends with everyone at the party. And that, I think I will never forget Sue's ability to build a community. And I will never forget that she showed us all that no matter what happens to you in your life, it's up to you to build a better one. Thank you.
You can hear me okay? I'm Rita Off. I worked at First Weber, administrative assistant for 20 years, and I knew Sue well. And when she'd come in, she always made sure she stopped to say hello, always. And I'm sorry. But she's so funny, though. She'd be up there. And somebody come in, and she'd look at this person, and she didn't, there were a lot of people coming and going, and she'd look at them, and she'd say, "Who's that?" Just like, and I said, I mean, just like, seriously, everybody come in. Or she'll go right up to them and say, "Who are you?" I just loved it. It just cracked me up every time. But she was serious. She'll go up and talk and say, "Oh, okay, all right, go ahead," or something, But she was just the sweetest. And she, like I said, she always took time to say hello. And she, we were having lunch a few times lately, and she told, I couldn't make it to her retirement party. I wasn't feeling good. And so we had lunch just recently, and she was telling me about this big cardboard, the card everybody signed for her retirement. It was and I wasn't able to make it, but one friend of mine there, Becky, said, "I'll sign your name." And I said, "I heard about the card." And she goes, "Oh my God, you should see the card." So I said, well, when we got together for lunch, and Sarah was with Sarah Anderson, and we had a really nice time just recently, and we all said, we're going to get together again soon. And then I stayed with her a little longer at Denny's restaurant. She loves it there. It's close by. Doesn't have to drive far, And so I said, well, okay, I want to see your card. And she said, "I'd love to have you see my card, Come on over. It's in my lower level." She said, "Let's do that next time for our luncheon. We'll go downstairs, look at the card, and then we'll go somewhere to eat then." And we're all going to do that, and unfortunately, it didn't happen, so I feel very bad. It was just not enough time. But she would always have the soup there, always soup for somebody that was sick. She'd say, "Save these cottage cheese containers, and I'll bring in more soup and keep them in the freezer." And she gave me one once. It was wonderful when I wasn't feeling good. She's just such a good-hearted person. She's just I'll miss her. So thank you.
Thank you to all who have shared. And again, this is not the last time that we share. So we're going to take a few moments of silent meditation right now to, again, recall Sue to mind. And the challenge that each of us has is to think of one event, as you've heard multiple events here, but think of something that you would like to share with Sue's family later on today, or in the weeks and days to come. And make that part of your meditation. And then Sue's grandchildren will help take us from there with a special reading that is in the program. But for right now, we just pause for a few moments of quiet prayer.
At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them.
At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we remember them.
At the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them.
At the shining of the sun and in the warmth of the summer, we remember them.
In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them.
In the beginning of the year and at its end, we remember them.
As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
When we are weary and we are in need of strength, we remember them.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them.
When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them.
When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them.
When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them.
As long as we live, they too will live, and
for they
they
are now
a part of us as we remember them.
Thank you, friends. It is the custom when we offer these ceremonies that we implore God to be sure to protect the soul of someone whom we have lost from these days onward. And so that prayer is called El Malei Rachamim. I'll be offering that in Hebrew and English. And then finally, after that, we'll offer the mourner's Kaddish, which is a traditional prayer that is rendered when we have moments of memory. So for El Malei Rachamim and for the Kaddish, we ask the community to rise in body or in spirit as we continue and remember Sue. El Malei Rachamim shochen bamromim Hamatzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina B'ma'alot kedoshim u'tehorim Kezoar harakia mazhirim Lenishmat Shoshana bat Yisrael Shahalcha le'olama Ba'al harachamim Yastirecha b'seter knafav le'olamim Ve'yitzror b'tzror rachim et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava V'nomar Amen. O God, full of compassion, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence along with all the righteous and holy ones to Sue Goldstein, our loved one who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge forever in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is now her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. And the mourner's Kaddish, which you find on the last page of the program this morning. We join with one another. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma di v'rach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei u'v'yomei u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol bir chata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. May God send peace to you who are bereaved and comfort all of us who are mourning at this time. And we say, Amen. Please join us next door, which is in the social hall. When you exit this room, just continue down the hallway to the left, and you'll eventually come to the social hall where it's all happening right now. Thank you for coming, friends.